All right, guys, what is going on today? We are here to talk about pull-ups. Now, I have a long storied journey with pull-ups. When I was 18, 19 years old, I decided to join the Army, and I was going into airborne school, which means that I have to actually pass a pull-up test, which is somewhat unique to the Army. And that was something I figured at 18, 19 years old. I was very light, I was 130 pounds. I had almost no muscle on my frame whatsoever. It's actually one of my first treks and journeys into the gym was to start to work on pull-ups so I could join the military. And much to my surprise, my very first time, I was actually not able to do a pull-up at all.
No way!
So I went to school on it, I started to practice it, and really I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I just started doing tons and tons of work on the gravitron machine. We're gonna talk about that here in this video. But 5 short years later, I was able to do a pull-up with a dip belt with 130 pounds attached to it at a body weight of 200 pounds. So I was able to put on a lot of muscle mass. I was able to continue to work on my relative strength and build that pull-up up to be a really strong piece of my sort of fitness regimen. And it's something I took a lot of pride in, still take a lot of pride in today. And so we're gonna talk through my journey, some tips and tricks and some things I learned along the way that hopefully you guys can take home and put into practice so that you can build your pull-up from 0 to a weighted pull-up. All right, so the first thing, tip 1 is volume. I hear this goal a lot from people when it comes to pull-ups, and they talk about, oh, I wanna get a pull-up, and they come in, they work on it maybe 1 day a week. That is simply not enough. We need a minimum of 3 days of work on these specific items to start to develop and work towards that pull-up. Now, a good rule of thumb to start with is 100 pull-ups a week. Now, you might be saying, well, I can't even do 1 pull-up yet. How am I gonna do that? And this is where that gravitron machine comes in. We have to find a way to take some weight off. So the cool part about the gravitron machine is you can actually go in and physically set the pin on exactly how much weight you want to take off of your frame to continue to work on your pull-ups and dips.
And breathing out as you're going up. And breathe in on the way down.
It also has a lot of different grips, so you can change up the stimulus response a little bit, which is good for overuse injuries. Now, if you don't have access to a gravitron machine, that's okay. So I put some links down in the description to some tools that you guys can use so you can work on this at your own home. And this is a really cheap setup. It's not something that takes a lot. For about $100 all in, you can have a full setup to do pretty much everything that we're talking about in that ebook or in this program. When we start to talk about some of the accessory exercises, you might need access to some dumbbells and things like that. But for the most part, really you can start to do a huge chunk of this and a lot of the volume from a pull-up perspective at your house. So what we want to think about with this, if we don't have access to the gravitron machine, we're going to kind of talk about this with both. We're going to talk about it with bands as well. We need to be getting 100 pull-ups in a week for week 1. And the way that I like to think about the program is we think about it 100 pull-ups in week 1, then we have to increase the volume in week 2. So week 2, we go to 110 pull-ups, week 3, 120 pull-ups, then 130, 140, 150, all the way up to 200 pull-ups. So 10 weeks in that program, and we're adding 10 reps of volume every single week. Now, I like to break that volume down over about 3 sessions. And so as we start getting up into that 180 zone, every session's got to be about 60 pull-ups. So for a lot of us, we're not going to be able to do that. I don't even think now I can probably do that with just body weight inside of 15 or 20 minutes. So what we want to think about doing is how are we going to take some weight off of our frame? Now, how we do that is going to depend a little bit on each individual person. For some of us, that might be some assistance bands or resistance bands kind of strung down, and I'll show a couple videos of how to do that, and I'll attach a couple links on how to properly set that up. We could do a gravitron machine where we're taking some assistance off, or if you guys don't have access to any of that, you can actually use a buddy to do some supported pull-ups. And this is actually a lot of how we did things in the military as well, is we had buddy supported pull-ups. We did a ton of these when we were prepping for airborne school as well. So, however we do it, we're trying to look more at volume to start, okay? So more reps. Now, as we work through that program, 10 weeks, we want to keep the assistance somewhat the same. So if we're on the gravitron machine, that whole 10 weeks where we go from 100 all the way up to 200, adding 10 reps per week of volume, we want to keep the assistance the same. So it'd be like 50 pounds we're going to take off of our frame, or we're going to use a blue band for the entire first 10 weeks. Then we're gonna reset everything back to 100 pull-ups. We're gonna start the program over again, but now we're gonna take the assistance down. So on the Gravitron machine, you'd move it from 50 to 40 pounds of assistance. Or if you were using bands, you'd move it from a blue band to a red band. Or if you were using a partner assist, maybe you do one leg instead of two legs, right? And so this is how we can start to advance ourselves in this program. Now, as we do that, we're gonna go all the way up again, 100, 110, 120, 130, all the way up to 200, another 10 weeks, all with that next level. Then guess what? We're gonna reset it again, and we're gonna try to take the band down. Now, you guys might not be able to do unbanded pull-ups at this time, and that's okay. If we're doing 3 sets or 4 sets or 5 sets, you might have to add the band in the later sets. Or you might be able to do your first couple reps without a band and then add that later. But what we need to think about is every 10 weeks, we have to stop, reset, advance ourselves to the next resistance or assistance level, and start to move up. Now, the cool part about this is this can become a weightlifting exercise for us too. Let's say you guys are super strong with pull-ups and you still want to get better and you want a PR, you want to get over 100 pounds attached, you want to get a 350 pound pull-up, whatever you want. Wherever we're at with that, we can reset this program ad infinitum, right? So you can go up and you can start doing this with, now I'm going to do every rep with 20 pounds attached to me. And I'm going to do 120 pull-ups a week with 20 pounds attached to me. Then next week I'm going to do 130 all the way up. Then we reset the program to 30 pounds attached to me. Keep building, keep building, keep building. And you guys can decide when you need to break from it. But volume is the one thing that's missing from a lot of people's program. So when we start thinking about that, for you guys who come to Friendship, we think about in class, we've got maybe 1 or 2 days a week that are dedicated pull-up work. Count that in, that's awesome, okay? But the other 2 days a week of the program that you're gonna need to do, you need to decide whether you're gonna do it here before or after a class in your own time, or you're gonna do it at home. Wherever we do it, it doesn't matter, we just have to make sure we get the reps in. Volume is key. And most people who aspire to get a pull-up simply are just not doing enough volume. That's it, that's all it boils down to. Now, tip number 2, all right, we've got the volume dialed in, we're good to go, we're pushing it, we're making sure we are advancing ourselves in the program every 10 weeks or so. What else can we do? Let's talk about some accessory exercises and finding our weak points here. For a lot of people, their biggest issue is grip. And so when we talk about grip, we have 2 kinds. We have grabby grip, or our fingers and hands, the actual strength to close down around, and we have that wrist strength kind of grip, right? A lot of similar muscle groups here, but what a lot of people start to do is that when they do a pull-up, they start with the meat of their hand over top of the pull-up bar, and then as they start to go through pull-up sets, they start to slide off that bar and get down into their fingertips. And unfortunately, when that starts to happen, we have a totally different pulling mechanic from our shoulder. We get much, much weaker. The big muscles in our shoulder are no longer able to be as active as we need them to be for a good pull-up. So for a lot of people, grip is actually a huge limiting factor at getting better at pull-ups and adding volume and doing higher reps. So that's got to be a staple of our program. The 2 best ways to work on grip strength are heavy farmer's carries. And so we're going to grab the heaviest dumbbell, and we want to simulate about the time it takes to do a pull-up set. So if we want to do 8 to 12 pull-ups, that's going to take somewhere between 20 and 35 seconds. So we need to pick a weight from a farmer's carry perspective that gets hard in 20 to 35 seconds. So if I go over and grab 35-pound dumbbells, well, I can walk for 400 meters easily with 35-pound dumbbells. I can walk for 6, 7, 8 minutes without having to set those down. But if I grab 100-pound dumbbells, that's going to get hard for me in about 30 seconds. So that's an appropriate weight for me to select when I'm doing grip work and farmer's carries. So that's the first exercise. You can never do enough farmer's carries, right? Keep making sure that you are taking those seriously and really working on your grip. At least 1 to 2 days a week of heavy farmer's carries. You can add this in with your pull-ups to kind of get better bang for your buck. Do it maybe at the end of those sets once your pull-ups are almost done. Step 2 is really hanging on the bar. Just popping in, when you guys come into a class, a workout, start your session, first thing on the warm-up and last thing on the cool down, really good for our body to just dead hang. It helps stretch a bunch of muscles out. It helps decompress our spine a little bit after a workout. Really, really good for us. Just hang from the bar and try to use that as something that you can improve every week. Today I was able to hang for 1 minute and 12 seconds. Tomorrow I'm going to try to hang for 1 minute and 14 seconds. Try it every day just to move up a little bit. Do it 1 to 2 days a week before and after a workout. add a little bit extra in, and just be on the bar more often. It's a great way to improve grip strength and longevity, and we're trying to do it making sure that that hand and wrist stays over top of the bar. All right, now let's talk about some accessory exercises. For some people, that actual pulling mechanic strength is a weak spot for them. This is where our rows are gonna help. So I like the croc row. I like it because it engages the core, grip, and that entire pulling mechanic. So biceps, shoulders, lats, everything gets involved with that exercise. And again, we can make it hard in that domain of 20 to 35 seconds by going really, really heavy. All right, I like to do my croc rows around 125, 115 pounds for in that 8 to 12 rep range. If you guys have ever done these before, if you do them right, they get your heart rate up. They really activate your core. They are a pretty total body exercise for us. So add those in, but make sure, again, we've already got the bulk of our pull-up volume in before we really crush those. Otherwise, your grip and pulling muscles will fatigue during the exercise we want to improve upon, the pull-up. So adding those in, there's a million other exercises that are going to carry over to this. Your deadlifts, your power cleans, all those things are going to help. But what we really want to think about in our last one is kind of where is our core at? Can we maintain good core position? That hollow position is kind of the gold standard we want to keep during pull-ups. And so working on any of our lat-driven work, our pull-downs, or any of those positions that are going to engage that lat as we start to go and pull down is going to help, but we need to make sure we do it in a good core position. So I like the hollow hold lat pull downs if and only if we can keep a good hollow position. I like standing lat pull downs. I like kneeling lat pull downs. Any of those positions are going to be really good for us, provided that we can keep that hollow position, that core on strong, and we don't crank on the lower back and flare those ribs up. To do that, changes the musculature a little bit that we're working. All right, our last and final tip here is going to be one that's really easy to do because we're doing the pull-ups anyway. Is every time that you lower, every time you do the eccentric portion of the pull-up, which is coming down, we're always doing that under control.
And slowly lower to a dead hang.
Tempo, right? Nice and smooth. We're never dropping, we're never letting go of the bar, we're never fatiguing and falling off early. We really want to slowly grind through that. There's a lot of strength to be gained there, and a lot of people skip past that, but it's an opportunity because we're already on the bar. Also, if you guys get to a point where I talked about that volume at the beginning, we're doing 100 pull-ups in a given week, we're maybe just like plain not there yet, right? Where we struggle to get a pull-up even with 100 pounds of assistance or taken off of our body, or the thickest black and purple band that we have, you still can't get to that full concentric portion. That's okay. We start with negatives then, right? You start going up and you're still gonna do that same volume, that 2 to 3 second, 3 to 4 second lower for 8 to 10 reps. Then you're gonna take a rest, right? You can go pop on a bike. We can do some of the other exercises we've talked about today. You can work on some lat pull downs in between, but we're still gonna come back and we'll do something like 5 sets of 6 to 8 reps. Get that 30 to 40 volume range in. Then we're going to come back and do it 2 days later, come back, do it 2 days later, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, whatever we want to do, but we need to get in that volume per week just the same. So keep those negatives, make sure that you're taking those seriously, and if you guys are able to crank out reps, don't crank them out so fast that we're just dropping and we're skipping out on that position. There's so much opportunity there, right? So make sure that we are always under control when we're doing those, especially when we start to get weighted, and we want to crank that chin up and raise those ribs up a little bit and start to adjust and cheat and kind of shimmy on the movement. That's where we need to get tight and control even more. All right, guys, so those are the steps that I took. Really, that exact program, that 100, 200 program, 10 weeks over, that was what I did for almost 4 years straight. And I lived on that Gravitron machine. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like 18, 19, 20 years old. I had no guidance, no coach, but I just figured if I just do more every week, I'll be able to do more the next week. And that was kind of my thought process. And in reality, it was maybe not the smartest program, but it worked, and it still works today. I've put a lot of people on this program. So I really recommend that if you guys do have a serious goal of doing pull-ups, getting better at pull-ups, developing the pull-up, that you guys really start to take seriously the volume that you're doing every week, start to track that, start to build and progress to that next level. And the cool part about pull-ups that I love more than anything is if we strengthen up the grips, the lats, the shoulders, the core, all those things, that carries over into everything. Like your push-ups are gonna get better, your handstands are gonna get better, rope climbs, power cleans, push presses, bench presses, all that stuff gets better because your pull-up is better. So we're not just like getting better at one movement, we're getting better at everything while we're doing this. It's not just like a throwaway. It's something that we can really develop, improve, and it's gonna make our whole well-rounded game better. It's always worth it. Continue to train, continue to push in that position, and I promise you'll be paid off for it. I hope this video helped you guys. If you guys need any extra help, shoot something in the comments below. I'll answer any questions you guys have. If you guys need any help or you want some accountability or you guys want to start a little group or a club or something that holds each other accountable and does it together after class here at Friendship, just let me know. I'm willing to help. I'm willing to reach out and answer any questions you guys have. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Have a good day, guys.